Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Innovation Storytellers Show. I'm your host, Susan Lindner, and I'm really excited for today's show. It's a different kind of show. I'm not interviewing a chief innovation officer from a Fortune 500 company, but maybe when you look at an entire region, an entire city of what's going on, this conversation can be more impactful than what's happening in just one individual company. I'm excited to invite the city of Austin to our conversation today. If you haven't been to Austin, Texas, it is an absolute firecracker of a city. That's how I think about it. I think about the first time I went to the Salt Lick and had the best possible ribs of my life. So much so that I smuggled some barbecue sauce home with me from that fantastic joint and continue to order it by mail delivered to me ever since. So, Austin is a place that holds great sweet and spiciness in my heart. And that's why I'm really excited to have Callie Taylor joining me today on the show. She is the Vice President of Economic Development for Opportunity Austin, which represents the 5-county Central Texas region. Callie's responsibilities include everything from promoting the Austin region as a premier destination for companies that are considering relocating to this firecracker region, or even an expansion of their current footprint there, while guiding them through the site selection process and to learn all about what Austin has to offer. She's been instrumental in the growth of the life sciences industry in Austin, which has seen a 137% increase in life sciences VC activity and is now home to more than 300 life science companies. I think you're probably giving Boston a run for its money. Her background includes more than 10 years of consulting, marketing, training, and account management experience, and she brings it all to the Yeehaw State, to all things Austin. Callie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I'm really excited to talk to your guests today about Austin, what's happening. And I have a love for the city, but I'm actually really excited that you brought up Salt Lick. I worked there all through high school,
No.
and I have yes, it was my first job, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. Their potato salad, everything. So
All of
that
it. So
little nostalgic.
we used to have a Memorial Day party at my house in New York growing up, just on the outskirts of New York City on Memorial Day. We would fly in barbecue from different places in the country, and we would fly in ribs from the Salt Lick just for this party every year. And it was amazing. So if you're in Austin, get yourself into a car. It's a little bit outside of the city center, but it is worth every darn minute of that car ride when you get there. Trust me on this. That is just hysterical that you work there. I don't know. I think I probably would have been 400 pounds if I worked at the Salt Lick. I wouldn't have eaten anything else. I would have put that beef in my Cheerios in the morning.
Oh, they used to give us briskets at the end of the night that we would take home, and it was amazing. We would invite people over after we would get off work, and everybody's just eating on brisket. It
Oh
was
my gosh.
fantastic.
See, now as a New Yorker, you get sent home with a bag of bagels that are going to be stale by the next morning. So you got brisket, we get bagels here in New York.
Bagels. Well, and if anybody doesn't have time while they're visiting Austin to go out to the original Salt Lake, we do have a Salt Lake at the airport. So you can still get your fix.
Right. And you can still cram that into your luggage on the way home. So fantastic. Well, Callie, shifting from barbecue
Yes.
to innovation, tell us a little bit about, okay, so I had the good fortune of coming to Austin prior to South by Southwest and going there. And really, the attraction was its incredible music scene. And I certainly remembered this kind of keep Austin weird vibe that really proliferated all things. It was this really interesting enclave in the middle of Texas that was fueled by the arts and creativity. And it was kind of where the misfits of Texas, I want to say, came to express themselves, right? On a very different scale. And music just flows out of the streets of Austin of all kinds. It's not just a country or honky tonk or what a New Yorker might envision Texas music to be, but it was really this sense of like, wow, boundless creativity is what we felt in the city. And then South by Southwest happened, and suddenly it was like, oh, there's tech in Austin. oh, there's innovation in Austin. That was my wake up call to Austin as an innovation center. But you know way more about this. How did this innovation evolution take place in Austin? When did it start?
Sure. I think it's always really been in kind of the DNA of the people of Austin. I think that's sort of what makes it such a dynamic kind of market. Misfits was a good way of putting it. Everybody who is in Austin, if you have an idea, come to Austin. Everybody's prepared to help you make it a reality. But I think a lot of people have always thought about Austin as either the live music capital of the world, as we like to say. If you say it long enough, it becomes reality, right? Or just a kind of sleepy, hippie tech town with a university right in the middle of the downtown. But, it started, I guess, in the 70s, early 70s. Armadillo World Headquarters is there in the music scene. And you had Janis Joplin along with Willie Nelson. So you had jazz, blues, country, everything. And that still continues to grow to this day. Musicians and music are a core part of Austin and our identity. And helping to make sure that musicians can continue to thrive and be in Austin is at the core of a lot of the city's initiatives as well. There's an organization called HAM that gives healthcare to our musicians to
Wow.
help support them because a lot of times they're only part-time musicians, right? They have other jobs, but they need healthcare. And so it's just kind of organizations like that and the support of the city that help our music industry thrive. And then South by Southwest catapulted it to a whole nother level. You also kind of as a history, I feel like people think of billionaires and musicians when they think of Boston. And
Mm.
in 1984 or in the early 80s, Michael Dell was at UT at the University of Texas and created his business in his dorm room. And now they are still headquartered in one of our largest employers in Round Rock. And it's kind of the start of us as a tech city, right? That's how we kind of got on the map there. With the talent that comes out of UT, we continue to be that way. With that, whenever the early 2000s, the kind of dot-com bubble bust, if you will, happened, there were a lot of jobs that were lost, but we've always kind of been a last out, first in economy. So at that time, a lot of our business leaders came together and the communities created Opportunity Austin, which is the organization that I work for, to really diversify the economy and make sure that that didn't happen again and create new industry for their families, for the people who live here, and make sure that this entire Central Texas region continues to be a place for creativity, jobs, quality of life. And so it's really a number of things that started it, but I think at its core, it's the people. There just is a creative spirit here and a friendliness and a willingness to support even what might be considered competitive industries. People really view Austin as a kind of a rising tides lift all ships
Mm.
sort of an area, and I see it every day. I mean, everybody's ready to lend a hand to help somebody else propel themselves. So
Yeah, such an interesting trajectory, right? Of how this came to be. And I'm a firm believer. It's amazing doing this show now for about 3 years, over 200 episodes. How many of the innovators I talk to are kind of closeted musicians in their spare time? These are all leaders in innovation, but they have a very creative bent. When you start digging into people who have a real innovation mindset, they're innovating in lots of areas of their life. They're not honed in and focused on just one thing. And I think that's why Austin is really, it's such a nurturing place for people who don't just innovate in biotech or tech or AI, whatever it may be, but rather there's an outlet for all kinds of creativity.
yes, I would agree with that. I think there's a really strategic effort in place with the coordination of our universities, our industry, our communities, our city leaders, community stakeholders to continue to foster that creativity and make strategic partnerships, connections to help that continue to exist and grow. There's so much that's happened just in my time. I've been at Opportunity Austin working in economic development for 9 years now. And if you would have told me back then that Austin would have a thriving aerospace and space tech and defense industry, I would not have believed you. But when Army Futures Command put their headquarters here in Austin in partnership with Capital Factory, which is one of our accelerators here in Austin, and at the University of Texas, to work with our startup community and the university to continue to bring armies, the militaries, future innovations and make them readily deployable to our armed forces as quickly as possible. That has since driven our space tech and aerospace industry, and we now have people building rockets in Austin. I never would have thought it. So
right. So now you actually have rocket scientists walking around on the streets of
yes,
Austin. Yeah.
literally.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and it really was a very intentional effort, though, to keep those pieces, because you can lose innovation and creativity if you aren't fostering it. And I think that we have those, we have the right things in place to continue.
So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem, because oftentimes it all starts with a great university. I was just in Arizona at ASU, and I was blown away by the fact that it was the largest public university in the world, 186,000 students around the world by different campuses, not just what's located in Phoenix proper, but the number of patents competing with MIT, and the number of entrepreneurs spun out of that university. But just because you have a great university doesn't necessarily mean it translates to innovation. But UT is a powerhouse in this capacity as well, right?
Well, UT is a powerhouse, and it's located in downtown Austin.
Mm.
Within a 100-mile radius, you have over 400,000 students at various universities and colleges. You have Texas State, too, in the southern part of our region, in San Marcos, that now has over 45,000 undergrad students. You have Texas A&M, about 90 miles to our east, and that's my alma mater, that has over 50,000 undergrads. So you've got a lot of universities, and those universities collaborate and work together. And I think that also helps to propel us forward. So we're very blessed with our university system. And as far as the innovation, Austin is the third in per capita patents, and we're number one in foreign direct investment. We've kind of come on to a global scale, and that goes back to South by Southwest that you mentioned earlier. We can thank South by Southwest a lot for gaining us that global attention and putting us on the map. We're seeing a lot of international companies, and we're actively working with international companies to get the story out and market ourselves as a place to be. And I've talked with a lot of companies who have moved here from overseas, and especially in European companies, they say it feels a lot like home. So it's just this kind of welcoming atmosphere, and yeah, it's kind of exciting to watch what's happening, because it used to be that the majority of the companies that were moving in or relocating were coming from the coasts. And now that is actually, I think it's about to surpass the coasts with our international influx. So that's really just bringing international innovation in, right? So it's because it's not all large corporations. There's a real interest in bringing in international startups and helping them grow here, because we want to get here and grow here. In fact, I think there are 21 unicorns that started in Austin, but I believe that we have over 70 that have some presence in the area. And a lot of that's due to the talent, and they feel supported and think that they can continue to innovate here.
And so that's really fascinating, is that you're getting international startups not necessarily wanting to start in Silicon Valley or New York, but rather get their start in Austin. What do you think is the biggest draw for them?
I think that a lot of it is that they do feel supported. We welcome them. We have a soft landing program to help companies get into the market. Also, just make sure that they are set up with the resources they need to establish a presence in the United States, right? To make sure that they have the right connections to hire that workforce. So the community really rallies around our startup community, and we try and put the resources in front of them and make the connections they need to grow. I think that that feeling of feeling welcomed and feeling like they are going to be supported along their way has a big impact on their decisions.
It's interesting. I mean, we're coming into interesting times, right? We do need startups to have a level of comfort with their legal status here, their immigration status here,
Yes.
IP protection, all of those things, right? That make a startup feel safe when they're still in the womb, kind of incubating and becoming before they can really even scale.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a really robust incubator and accelerator industry, or not industry, I should say, but ecosystem here. That so there's a lot of different avenues to grow here, and to connect with support and also funding. We are in Texas. I think we have over a third of all VCs that are in the state are in Austin.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a and they're investing in Austin companies. That's the big picture is they really want our industry to grow. And
Yeah.
so that's been kind of exciting.
So it really pays to have a presence, is what you're saying, on the ground in Austin in order to avail yourself of those kinds of opportunities.
Yes, or just within the region. They just
Yeah.
want to help support those Central Texas startups, and they're proving it with their, with their money, with their wallets. So
Yeah.
it's been nice.
So tell us a little bit about some of the examples that you think are emblematic of the success of Opportunity Austin and just what's happening in the region.
But I think that we've always had a large semiconductor presence, or actually second largest in outside of Silicon Valley. That's why they call us Silicon Hills here.
Oh, I
And
didn't
with
know
this,
that. That's like
yeah,
Texas Instruments back in the day, right? With the
yes.
origin of the
Well, and
semiconductor.
Samsung always has been here. We've got a really robust, and Samsung just announced their new fab and their multi-billion-dollar investment in a new facility in Taylor. And so they're doubling down. They're showing that that they feel good about being able to hire that talent, grow here, supported here. And that, I mean, I think Samsung's huge to our continued success, but they are one of many. Dell continuing to hire here, doubling down, growing here. That it shows that they think that they can get the talent. They feel like it's easy to recruit here, and they feel supported by the business community and just the community's leadership as well. We put a lot of effort into meeting with our local companies to ask them, what are the advantages? What are the challenges of doing business in this area? And that informs our initiatives going forward, because we want to make the Austin region a friendly place to do business, and we want to help our companies grow. And I think getting in front of them and talking with them, finding out how to make that happen goes a long way. So,
And so we've talked a little bit. Well, I don't think we've mentioned by name, but we've talked about Tesla. We've talked about Starlink, right? Is Musk now in Austin with all of his companies?
yes, they are all. It's kind of funny. I'm sure that people heard about the Gigafactory, and it's kind of located right there on the Colorado River in Southeast Austin. But if you were to get in a canoe and get on that river, or on a raft and go down the Colorado River, they're all kind of just down each one. So SpaceX is a little bit further down the river to the east. And then you have the Boring Company, and Neuralink and X is supposed to be coming also. So yeah, he's
Gotcha.
kind of just created a little city. They are doing a bunch of residential developments out there. I haven't gone out there to see it yet, but he's building literally a city. There's a bunch of housing that's going to be on their properties, and it's wild. Tesla has over 20,000 employees now in Austin. It's just unbelievable, and they ramped up pretty quickly. But they did that with clear partnerships, not just with the University of Texas, because I think another thing that makes us so successful in Austin and supporting our industry is Austin Community College, our community college system. They have over 40,000 enrolled students, over 11 campuses across the region. But what they do is partner directly with our employers and say, what do you need? What do you need for, how are we going to train your people? We'll come on site if need be. They want the input of how to train the future workforce here in the region. And they'll put somebody on site. They have a program specifically for Tesla that they pump out talent that they need. So it's pretty impressive. But that actually brings me to kind of another thing. Once the Austin economy really started to diversify and we are getting these advanced manufacturing jobs, so coming out of mostly being tech, it's like, okay, we need these training programs. How is that going to work? How are we going to get the talent that we need? And there is a collaboration between starting in elementary school, between the ISDs, the community colleges, and the universities. Okay, what kind of training programs do we need? We need to get ahead of this. And how are we going to make this work? And that's something that I think really is a big reason for our success, because they all work together to make it happen.
What's an ISD? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So the independent school districts. So the
Ah.
individual school districts here in the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty amazing, right? We've seen places like Google and Meta, they are not even requiring university degrees in order to get a foothold into these companies now. They need incredible they want people trained on their stuff, right? As opposed to like a broad knowledge that you might get from universities now. And they're putting together the training courses themselves and saying, we have a pipeline directly into our businesses. Don't stop.
Yes, exactly.
So what's next for Austin? What do you see on the horizon? What should we be when we think about other opportunity zones and innovation centers, right? New innovation ecosystems. What do you think is the criteria for an innovation hub of the future? What does it absolutely positively need to have?
Well, I think that it needs to have a very much collaboration on all fronts, which is industry, universities, the school districts, the communities, and the people, right? The people who live there have to be supportive of that as well. And I think that with our incubators, accelerators, working in tandem with the universities, I think that we have that. But I think that the collaboration and the wanting to help people grow and being willing to jump in and support your startups is absolutely necessary.
Mm. And what do you think, like physically, do we need better legal infrastructure? Do we need
Oh,
a kind of
absolutely.
pipeline when it comes to student to entrepreneur to scale? What else should we be thinking about if we're thinking about a forward-looking place?
Well, I think definitely you need to have monetary support in place. But, as companies are growing, having those kind of stepping stones or the space for them to be able to grow in a meaningful way and step up is also really important. So you need to let them have access to space to continue to grow, but also kind of mentorship from the local community and the entrepreneurial community. We've got a lot of think tanks where the local innovation community gets together and works with startups in addition to with UT, with the colleges. The the funds necessary to get off the ground could be pretty high, but if you have spaces available for them and can work and let them grow reasonably and good kind of even shared services, right, to help them step up.
Great. So what else can we expect from Austin in the future? What can we expect from the region? What's in the works?
What's in the works? Well, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot in the works. As I'd mentioned, kind of on the defense front, we're seeing that continue to grow. And I want to take a step back and say that it's also a lot of this has to do with the state as well. The state of Texas is known as a business friendly place to do business. We have a low tax burden. They do really want to make it easy to do business here, right? And continue to bring business. So there's a concerted effort at the state level. But now the state is coming in with funding. The Texas Space Commission has funds allocated towards continuing to grow that industry, as well as in our last legislative session that just wrapped up, they reinstated the funds for the R&D tax credit to continue to do R&D and be able to fund that and keep those innovators here and growing and doing that R&D here locally is really important. But the state stepping in as well to make sure that that happens. So we couldn't do it without those efforts either.
Yeah. So it really is a family affair, right? You need everybody kind of chugging together in the same direction.
Yes.
What are the challenges in making an ecosystem this large across giant universities, across the geography that is like, so Texas is a country to most people in Europe. It's several countries to most people in Europe, right? Or Latin America. It's giant.
Yes, it is. I think Austin, as we've kind of been talking about, it's just it's always been in the DNA of the city to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And when with the fast growth, the extremely fast growth that we've had, I think that has been one of the challenges. You might have a neighbor who's working on something similar to you, but you haven't slowed down to find out that that's happening. And so I think continuing to collaborate and making the connections that bolster each other will help us to continue to grow. But I think during our really rapid growth initially, I think there was a lot of people not realizing that there's companies doing something that can help us grow even further. So it was a challenge. But we're kind of putting that together now and making these innovation hubs and places for collaboration so that we can kind of come through that. But also, in addition to just supporting the industry, we've got a lot of initiatives for growth. The airport's expanding their terminal. That is going to take some time, but we grew so fast. We need it now. We needed it yesterday. We needed it 10 years ago. And also our highways. But those things are in the work now. There are definitely going to be challenges in the short term, but we're moving forward and we don't feel like it's going to hinder our growth. We're getting ahead of it, and well, not getting ahead of it, but it's in the works now, and they're planning it for the future, right? So the initial airport expansion wasn't going to be as large as it is now, but they're like, okay, we needed this yesterday, so we're going to do it even bigger to plan for the future. So we don't anticipate slowing down anytime soon. We're not seeing any indicators of that.
Well, if I could put in a bid for easier hotel access during South by Southwest,
yes,
that would be amazing.
There are actually a lot of hotels going in downtown. It has been historically hard during the festivals of South by Southwest and Austin City Limits Music Festival.
That's right.
To get a place to stay. I've always loved that Austin has their festivals in spring and in fall, so in March and then in October. That's when the weather's about to get really good. And maybe in March, we're about to start having great weather. And then in October, it's about to get a little cooler. So we need to have a festival to flank the seasons.
Yeah, no, those are awesome bookends, ones that use your brain and one that uses your heart. It's a wonderful combination. So moving forward, do you envision are you planning for more large companies moving into Austin, kind of giving up their seats on the coast? Or are you envisioning that the next boom in Austin is locally based, or maybe it's internationally based? I'm not sure.
Well, I think our local growth, we've had a lot of recent expansions. Innovis, for example, is expanding their surgery center in Austin. They opened that up to the entire United States, but felt confident that they could hire the talent they needed here. And so they're expanding into one of our regional communities in addition to keeping their Austin operations as well. And so, I mean, your local growth and supporting your business expansion is always going to be the most important. We have Firefly Aerospace that has received some Texas Space Commission's monies. They started out as a startup here, and they now have over 500 people employed. So those are important. Your local and existing business is extremely important. However, with the likes of Tesla coming in, your Samsungs and all the other semiconductor that surrounds that, they are bringing in their suppliers. A lot of those suppliers are internationally based. So I think we will continue to see a lot of large international companies coming in as well. So I think both of those things. I think the coasts will still, just because of Texas being known as a great place to do business, I think we'll still see some of that. But I think our large growth will be local companies and international.
And so I imagine that your partnership with the government is really critical. What is the best way or some advice that you would give to other cities that are looking to create their own innovation opportunities inside of a city? What do you think the government plays the best role in supporting innovation?
Well, I think that in supporting innovation, it's kind of helping them with the resources they need to grow. I don't know that it it's not necessarily monetarily, but being there to make sure that legislation or that there's no hindrances, if you will, to their growth. It's not getting in the way of the creativity and being there as a support and maybe just stepping in to assist their efforts. But I guess it might be helpful here to give an example of Opportunity Austin and
Yeah.
how we operate and how we operate as a regional entity, because that includes both state and our local government and business stakeholders. So Opportunity Austin was formed in 2004 out of the .com bust that I mentioned. So we got together. We work with about 22 different communities in the 5-county Austin region, so the greater Austin region. And all of those communities, along with the existing businesses at the time, came together, said, let's diversify the economy and let's work together in this effort to promote what we are as a region and support our local business. As I've mentioned about the Innovis, they started, or their first location was in Austin, but now they're expanding into Cedar Park out into the region. And that took collaboration between both communities. It's like a lot of times in economic development, communities want to keep their people within their boundaries, within the city boundaries, right? And this was a coordination between city of Austin and Cedar Park. We were like, no, we want you to grow regionally. We don't care if you're in the city of Austin. Let's find you the right place. Let's support you, make sure that it works for your facility needs, and let's help you do that together. I mean, I think that collaboration is huge there. And I think that I know that Gary Farmer, who's one of the individuals, he's a fantastic business leader here. He's our board chair for the past 20 years. He recently has passed the torch to Casey Dobson, but he would go around to other economic development, regional organizations, or organizations trying to start regional efforts and say, here's the playbook. This is what Austin's doing. We think we're doing an okay job, but it's not a secret. Copy this. And so, I mean, that collaborative spirit and your willingness to share and be open, it's pretty important.
Yeah, and I would assume that it matters. It matters as a workforce gets older, for example, that they don't want to necessarily be in the city center, right? Your startups become
Sure.
grown-ups and they want to live in the burbs where their kids can do more stuff, right? It's a shift, just like in Atlanta, right? Most startups start in city center and then wind up moving to the outskirts over time. It's a natural progression for a lot of companies.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and we're seeing that happen. So yeah, and that's why being coordinated is an effort and making sure that everybody's working for the overall goal is paramount. I think another thing that for Austin specifically is our mayor is very pro business, pro startup. He was actually the mayor in 2003, then went on to become a state senator. And now he came back. He loves the city so much. He came back to be mayor again because he was like, there's so much going on where that I want to keep it going. I want to continue this. Let's keep it let's get it moving. Let's keep pushing forward. Oh, I think that speaks volumes that somebody that he would come back.
Yeah, that he's really that
Believes in
dedicated
it
to
so
it.
much. Mhm.
Yeah, that matters. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm really glad that my listeners are going to get to know what's happening in Austin and what's next on the horizon, like just coming up in your calendar that other innovation leaders, my listeners are product managers and product marketers, innovation leaders, chief innovation officers. What should they be watching out for when they think of Austin? What should be top of their radar? What's coming up next?
You know, we are actually emerging as a life sciences hub here lately. I don't think that anybody thought that, but you kind of mentioned it earlier when you said, "Watch out, Boston." Uh,
Yeah,
we've really been focused on the life sciences industry. It's actually in our strategic plan. It has been since I've been here, so since at least 9 years ago, with the start of Dell Medical School in partnership with the University of Texas Medical School, there has been a really big focus on growing that industry, right? But we had to find our niche because Houston has really been the big medical hub here in Texas. But now MD Anderson out of Houston is also partnering with the University of Texas Medical School to bring a $2.5 billion cancer research hospital here. And our startup community is we kind of found that we're the merging of the tech and life sciences. So we're seeing a lot of health tech diagnostics. I think we're going to continue to grow in this area, and our local VCs are funding a lot of our life science startups. That's grown 123% just in the past year in our VC funding for life sciences. So that's the kind of industry of the future, if that was what your question
yeah,
was aimed at.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you're in bio at Boston, one of the biggest biotech conferences in the world at the moment. Are you seeing opportunities for Austin companies there and for international companies to come to Austin?
Oh, absolutely. We actually met with a company yesterday, came up to us and said, "Hey, we just actually relocated our headquarters to Cedar Park." We were like, "What?"
Wow.
Oh
You're
my
like,
gosh. Yeah.
we
So
forgot to
I
bring a
think
basket of muffins. Sorry.
I know exactly. They found us, and so I think we definitely see it because we saw it just yesterday. There's a lot of opportunity anywhere in Texas. I think that especially for entrepreneurs and startups, we've really wrapped our arms around that, embraced it, and really have found a way to support and connect. That it wasn't easy, right? It was very focused. There wasn't really anybody or a central way to plug your startups into that venture capital funding or resources necessarily always in place. And now we kind of have that environment working for us. And I think that the word's getting out to the startup community that Austin is a place that you can go grow and they will support you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. It's this time in the podcast where I ask you our hot seat questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What is the greatest innovation of all time?
Okay. Well, I think that, I mean, penicillin and fire are probably pretty up there.
And you might need one after the other, but yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And electricity, but I guess that's really more of a discovery. But really, I mean, the top of all, I think that's been the most impactful in our lives and the quality of life is cleanliness, washing hands. When we learned that that spread disease and figured out to not do that, I think that changed things quite a bit.
Absolutely. And and if you had the chance to join any innovation team in history, which team would you join?
Well, I should probably say Dell because they are Austin headquartered. But I think
Mhm.
Michael Dell did that more on his own but so my answer would be I would to have been with Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs when they basically changed the world would have been pretty amazing. I mean, to think that they invented a cell phone that has more computing power than most naval ships had in the 80s, 70s. is beyond my ability to comprehend.
Yeah, right. And we're probably reaching new thresholds with that with AI at the moment. And finally, what's an innovation that the world needs right now?
I well, this one already exists, but I'm going to go there anyway because ever since I started to drive and realized that I didn't really like to do it, I've wanted autonomous vehicles to be on the market, and now they're actually all over the place in downtown Austin. You got Waymo and Volkswagen and everyone. I think so. We're finally on the precipice of that the world needs. I This is going to be kind of nerdy. I think interstellar travel is what the world needs.
It,
Interdimensional travel. I want to see what's out there. We're
gotcha. So
curious.
are you talking about space travel?
Yes.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, you can be a space tourist now, I suppose, with Jeff Bezos, right?
Well, you can, but we haven't gone interdimensional yet, though.
We haven't gone interdimensional. This is
Yes. I
true.
said interstellar. I meant interdimensional. My apologies.
Yeah. So you just mean we need to get off of this frequency and get onto a new
Yeah.
one. Is that
Why not?
why
We
not?
see what else is out there.
Yeah, I love
That'll
that.
open up even more doors, right? So,
Literally and figuratively. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, Callie, if people want to get in touch with you and Opportunity Austin, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. You can go to our website, just www.opportunityaustin.com, and any one of our teams, whether you're wanting to get in touch with our global investment innovation team that does foreign direct investment, but also works with our startup community and really helps to plug them in with that venture capital funding. And they also do international recruitment. You can find them on our website. We also have a talent and workforce team who you can find their information. Everybody's information you can find depending on what you're looking for. So we also have an advocacy team as well. But if you're looking to move into the market or expand into the market, you can reach out to me directly.
Fantastic. Callie, thank you so much for joining me on the Innovation Storyteller Show. If you love this episode, please like and subscribe and share it with all your friends who are thinking about Austin and a giant beef rib from the Salt Lake. Thank you so much, Callie. Have an awesome
Thank you, Susan. Okay, you as well.